Welcome back to the show. Well, it's the latest political stalemate. States pitted against each other over GST revenue. WA wants more, but will it come at the cost of hundreds of millions of dollars to New South Wales, Victoria and Queensland? To sort through the mess, I'm joined now by Education Minister Christopher Pyne, who joins us from Adelaide this morning.
Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning to you. And Shadow Agricultural Minister Joel Fitzgibbon here in the studio. Good morning.
Lisa, Christopher.
Morning, Joel. Welcome.
I'm going to start with you, Joel. Now, Joe Hockey met with state treasurers to find a solution yesterday, or try to find a solution, but failed to find any common ground for any common good. Should WA be considered a special case with the recent collapse in the iron ore price?
Well, again, Lisa, it's chaos. I mean, Joe Hockey brings out these thought bubbles before the meeting, then expects to go inside and have the premiers agree. I mean, I'm sure Christopher's very happy for South Australia to give up some of its GST revenue for Western Australia. These are very difficult issues, and you don't spoil the show prior to what are very much private conversations on these issues.
There's for and against here, though, because the GST was set when WA was getting money from iron ore 2 years ago that was through the roof compared to what they're getting now.
But the lag effect has always been an argument. It's like a merry-go-round. You're disadvantaged for a period until the lag catches up. Sometimes, when you're in the middle of a boom, you're benefiting because the formula was set before the boom. So it's an age-old argument. The point is that the Labor Party is open to reform, but we have to have real reform, not a thought bubble which simply takes money off some states to give to others.
Well, on that note, Christopher, the government, of course, needs billions to try and make up for those policy reforms that never made it through the Senate. Should you just bite the bullet by lowering personal and company tax rates and work towards convincing the states to approve raising the GST to 15% across all goods and services? That way everyone wins.
No, I don't think so, Lisa. I don't think that's what the government will do or that it wants to do. The truth is the GST is a state tax. The Commonwealth collects it on behalf of the states and then gives it all to the states. That was the purpose of it, to put the states on a sound financial footing, because they are the service deliverer, but they're not the tax raisers, and therefore we introduced the GST under the Howard government, but we have absolutely no plans to increase it or to expand the basket of goods and services to which it applies. But if the states and territories want to increase that tax, and that'll be a matter for them, the Commonwealth certainly won't be doing it on their behalf and then taking the political pain for doing so. The states and territories will have to be mature governments and make their own decisions and then approach the federal government. And then, if the federal government and the opposition agree, it's possible. But all of that is extremely unlikely. The GST carve-up, of course, is again a matter for the states and territories and the Grants Commission. It's at arm's length from the Commonwealth Government, as it should be, and Joel's absolutely right. There are lag factors, and Western Australia, of course, has been a net gainer from the carve-up of federal and state taxes over many decades. Right now, they are in a period where they are a net contributor, but they have, over most of the decades of their existence, been a receiver from the eastern states because of the vastness of Western Australia and the costs of trying to service such an enormous part of the continent.
So meantime, the stalemate continues.
Lisa, this is a folly. Abbott's choking the funding to the states. He's cutting billions and billions from their grants to the states, and he's now saying to them, oh, well, if you want more money, come back and ask us to raise the GST. That's what's going on here. He's laying the groundwork for a GST rise.
That's not the case, but what Joel is exposing yet again is that Labor is the magic pudding political party. They believe that there's a money tree somewhere in the backyard which just keeps producing taxpayers' money to give to other people. Now, Labor has stopped changes in the Senate, as you pointed out, Lisa. They have proposed to put $15 billion back into foreign aid. Where is all this money coming from? And now Joel this morning is saying we should give more money to the states. Well, everyone's apparently a winner. Everyone's apparently a winner from Labor, but they haven't shown where the money's coming from. And at the next election, they're going to have to say where the money's coming from.
Well, Christopher, introduced some reform that doesn't target those with the least capacity to pay.
Well, we've introduced lots of changes.
Which has been your form.
What would you do? I mean, Bill Shorten's idea is that we are apparently going to be all against domestic violence. Well, we all agree with that. He's also in favour of the Republic, which he's now trying to say is his idea, and he wants to tax multinationals more. Well, we all want to do that. Now, Labor's going to have to show at the next election that Labor's going to have to show that where the money is coming from for all their spending, because the Australian people are not mugs. Now, I know that Bill Shorten's probably a bit distracted today because on the front page of the Sydney Morning Herald, his leadership has been thrown into question by rorting of the leadership ballot in 2013. And if Anthony Albanese was here, I'm sure he'd be asking how he feels about being rorted out of being Labor leader. And Bill Shorten needs to resolve that and have an inquiry into his Labor election as Labor leader, or he'll have a cloud hanging over his head.
OK, let's leave the final word to Joel.
I'm sure Albo is missing you. That was a nice attempt at diversion, Elisa. He wants to talk about anything but the current government's policy.
But what do you have to say about that story in the Sydney Morning Herald this morning about Bill Shorten's leadership?
Well, I'll be at that Administrative Committee meeting later this morning. I'll see what people have to say. But I think it's a complete diversion. It's an internal matter. I don't think it's serious. I think it's obvious a bit of play going on within the party. This happens all the time. It happens in the Liberal Party too, of course. It's just an attempt at diversion. Right. This chaotic government doesn't want to talk about the chaos they have created.
All right, Joel Fitzgibbon and Christopher Pyne, always good to have your company. Thanks very much for your time this morning.
Thank you. Thank you, Joel.
See you, Christopher.
Over to you, Ross.